okay, what else are you doing in the way of your behavior? So what are you actually doing to set those boundaries? Such as, what are the hours that you guys communicate? How transparent are you about the fact that, you know, that he is a friend and you to him in terms of if you have a significant other? These are other things that you want to do to set a certain kind of boundary so that at the end of the day, this person now feels like, you know what, they are like a brother or sister to you, and as opposed to someone that is held in a special space. You want to make sure that they don't romanticize about, you know, being in this special space, because more than likely you're giving them fuel to believe that they are special, and special in a way that can contribute to being intimate at some point in time with you. So setting the boundary is very key, not just verbally, but also physically. People need to experience the boundaries, not necessarily just hear them, okay? Dr. Price says, I've been dating and guys basically fall in the friend zone when there is no, what is that? Zazazoo or chemistry. Okay. Can you develop the Zazazoo or chemistry later? My friend said I'd be missing out on a good dude. This is a very good question. And the answer to that is it really depends on who you are and what really attracts you. So for many people, one thing that I often talk about is the fact that there are a lot more sapiosexuals out there than they actually know. And sapiosexuals are people that are turned on by intellectual stimuli, you know, conversations and interactions that are not just physical, but more so in terms of just being stimulated by having certain things in common, things that, you know, that really pique their interest, especially in the area of intelligence. So there are a lot of people that have actually come together as a result of working together and understanding, you know, more about how one another thinks and are entertained that way, and then become a little bit more attracted. So I do believe that in certain instances, when you're open to the idea of, you know, the different ways that you can be stimulated, yes. However, if physically it's just not there, I mean, that's a huge wall to clear, to climb, and to get over, so to speak. So I would suggest that at the end of the day, that you don't push it. But if you are in this, you know, having an interaction with someone and, you know, they're pleasant to look at or they're okay, and then when it comes down to, you know, the conversations and that kind of interaction, yeah, I do think that you can find someone in that space. However, you've got to make sure at the end of the day that, you know, if you really are more physical in terms of the percentage of interaction and attraction, well, just go ahead and honor that, you know, because that's the season you're in. And more than likely, you may drag that other person along and lead them along, only to find out that really, as much as you tried, it just wasn't working out, okay? Allie says, chemistry and attraction is very hard to silence during a friendship, especially if those feelings were there in the very beginning. Well, yeah, but remember what you just now said. You said chemistry. Chemistry is the mixture of two elements, right? It's the outcome of two elements mixing. And so if the outcome of the two elements mixing actually comes together in a way that you can really call it chemistry towards, you know, an intimate relationship, more than friendship, more than platonic, and then that other person says, you know what, I'd rather us be friends. Well, what that person is saying is that they're probably not in the space where they can actually honor that chemistry, and so that's a different type of situation. However, if you're being put into the friend zone, and more than likely the reason you're put in the friend zone is because there isn't chemistry, at least from that other person's perspective, it's really up to you to make sure that you honor that and not necessarily look at them like, girl or boy, you see it. You see that chemistry, right? Stop playing, right? So you have to really make sure that you keep your eyes wide open. Now, again, there are a lot of reasons why people are pushed into the friend zone. Not all of them are based off of straight up chemistry or the lack thereof. Sometimes, again, it can be about that person and where they are. That person could be in a relationship, right? That person could be out of a relationship and still not available. So there are a lot of reasons, again, that you may not be, able to actually pursue that relationship just because you have chemistry. So let's be clear about that. All right. Any other questions or comments about that? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that your comments and your questions on this topic are honored at all times. Back to Allie, as you were talking about, if those feelings were in the very beginning in terms of chemistry and things of that nature, it's important that you are also present. and able to address what those questions, what the chemistry was all about. If it was just lust at first sight, and then it got a little complicated, and then you realize at the end of the day, as you're saying, you want to build on that. The other person is saying, no, that was just a glitch in the matrix. There are a lot of different situations and scenarios that is really important that we talk through, because at the end of the day, we're two different people with two different perspectives, and more than likely, we're going to look at the same painting with different interpretations. So it's good that we flush it out early so that no one's feelings get hurt. All right? If you're just now checking in with me, man, we're talking about Friend Zone 101. What is the rules? What is the definition? Right? And we want to make sure that at the end of the day that we incorporate your thoughts, your perspective, your opinion on the topic. And if you have any questions, please ask away, because we want to make sure that this is reflective and not prescriptive. I'm not talking at you. I want to talk with you. So if there's anyone that wants to join me live, feel free to just go ahead and knock that little button, hit that button that says you want to go live with me, and you can ask your question face to face. Or if you just want to go ahead and text the thread, text it into the thread, I'll read the question and answer the question. There's another way that we do this also, and that is go through the DM. My team member, Lydia, will go ahead and punch up your question and put it on the thread so that you're not exposed for whatever your question is, okay? No questions are bad questions, so please, we want to make sure that we encourage you to be transparent in this space. It's very safe, it's mature, so if you have any kids around, please tell them to go into the next room, or put some earphones on them and let them listen to some music, or watch something on that tablet of theirs or something. But this is a mature audience, and we want to make sure that everyone that's communicating is able to do so without impacting any young lives, mental. All right. So Ali says it's about the alligator lying in wait, like you said. Yeah. I mean, the reality is, again, that when someone is interested in you, right, or when you're interested in someone else, more than likely, when you get put into the friend zone, right, that person is not necessarily looking at it as a permanent situation, and are looking for an opportunity at some point where either your relationship dissolves, goes in the wrong direction, or at some point where you show your true feelings for them. Again, it's just about being optimistic, because ultimately when that person is interested, or when you're interested, you want to really, really hold on to the idea that maybe something can still happen, whether it be immediate or sometime down the road. Obviously, it depends on you and what kind of season you're in. All right, Father Drew, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. And there's a couple other people. Real sample size, thank you for joining. I'm sure I missed a couple of other people. Denise, what's going on? Daphne, what up? Let's see what we have in other comments and questions. Daphne says, I had a male friend who lives a long distance away, and he told me from the start of our friendship that long distance is not what he is not what he wanted. He said it never works. We started talking regularly. So again, I think that's a great thing that the guy did in terms of talking to you about what his I don't want to say limitations are, but he knows himself enough to say, you know what, the long distance thing isn't for him. And a long distance relationship is very tough, by the way, because at the end of the day, both parties really need to agree that they're going to communicate a certain kind of way, in that they have enough other things going on where that relationship may not necessarily be front and center in terms of the amount of face time that you may need. Now, obviously, it's 2020. What do we know? Right? We got FaceTime. You can Zoom. You can do a whole bunch of stuff, right? And so it's not necessarily the same as back in the day. But at the end of the day, how much actual touch and close up 3-dimensional interaction are you going to have? He's saying in more than one way that long distance thing is that you have to just make sure that at the end of the day you are at your best and just stay in that friend zone. That's it. If things happen where you guys are in the same city or whatever, then it's back on. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. All right. Can you do me a favor and check downstairs in the lobby? There's someone there. All right. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, everyone. So I got a call. Someone's down in my lobby. Okay, so Daphne says, so we ended up not being friends, no friend zone or relationship. Shake my head. I'm sorry to hear that, Daphne. Clearly he's of the opinion, or perhaps the both of you came to that conclusion that, excuse me 1 second, it may be up front. Okay, so maybe you guys came to the conclusion at the end of the day that friendship is not really something that you guys are pursuing. This relationship or nothing, or relationship or bust as they call it. So sorry to hear that. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of people, by the way, that should probably arrive at that conclusion as well. And because they are optimistic, right, they're going to lie in wait, as I said, like that alligator, in terms of, disguise themselves as a friend. But the reality is they're opportunists. And, whether you're one of those people or of one of those people, you've been in that situation before, it's the human condition, by the way. I'm not here to throw any shade or anything like that, throw anyone under the bus. It's natural that, again, when you have an interest, that you're going to be more optimistic about the potential for you to actually be with that person. But I would really caution that when you're put into the friend zone, if you yourself are being put into the friend zone, if that's ultimately not a place that you can really operate or you can occupy, that you have the courage to have that conversation with your new friend, so to speak, about that. Because there's a certain amount of trust at the end of the day that you want to be able to have for the people that you call a friend or put into the friend zone. And if that really can't happen, then the reality is that you're frauding. And that's just my thoughts on that. So Dr. Price says, is having people in the friend zone appropriate when you begin or are in a relationship with someone else? It depends, again, on what your objectives are. When you actually have someone that's in the friend zone, again, the friend zone, right, to some extent, let's be really literal about it, right? The friend zone means is that there's a space, right, that a person can exist, and they can kind of, they can move in and out of that friend zone, so to speak. Or, because it doesn't say like it's friend jail or friend bracket and that's it, but the zone is like, there are different types of friends that may exist in this friend zone. So if you have someone that you put into the friend zone, is it really, should I say, a parking spot? Are you putting them there just on pause for a second? Are you putting them on ice for a moment? At some point, you're going to thaw them out. At some point, they're going to get out of that friend zone. And if that's really your objective, then, well, you got to really think about where are you in your current relationship. If you're in that stage where you're setting up some people to fill in that gap, so to speak, then you should probably wrap up that relationship a little quicker in terms of, just being honest about where you are in that relationship. The reality is also that if you are transitioning out of a relationship and you have some friends or someone that is in a friend zone, you to give yourself some breathing space. Remember, the rebound is real. Okay, it is real. Rebounding from a relationship is absolutely real. So often you develop feelings for this next person that are really not as accurate, because most of what you were lacking in your existing relationship or prior relationship, you're going to look at as these amazing attributes. Be very careful to give yourself some time to, to decompress, get to know yourself post-relationship, heal from some of the drama that perhaps you were in, or that you caused, or whatever may be the situation, before you go into another relationship. It is great that if you find someone that you have something in common with and you can be a friend, continue to just be a friend for as long as you can, as you're developing, what I would say, your sea legs again, right? As you are healing from that past relationship. It's very important. Friendship is very key. It's the foundation for any relationship. And if you can do that, that's great. If that person that you're talking to is so focused on the romantic aspect of it all, that they really they can't entertain being a friend, then I would just suggest that you back up from that situation altogether. Because you don't need to swing from one relationship directly into another one. That's not healthy for anyone. All right? Daphne says, why is long distance an issue to people? Well, long distance is not about, anything more than really what else you have going on and what's your definition of a relationship. Some people are very comfortable with being on the phone and texting, and then maybe some FaceTime, and once in a month or once every couple months actually getting together physically, being in each other's space. And others have different definitions as to what a relationship consists of. I think at the end of the day, both parties need to agree on what's the highest priority, or what are levels of communication that they really need. What does intimacy look like? And I don't mean actual physical intimacy, but I'm talking about the degree to which they are really building together, learning a lot of intimate things about one another, those types of things. Okay, so that's what I'm really referencing. But again, not everyone is against, long distance relationships, obviously. And in this digital age, there are a lot more long distance relationships taking place than have ever historically. So have at it if that's your twist. Okay. Ali says, I think friend zoning someone after a relationship is not mutually agreed upon. Well, again, friend zoning overall is seen as an insult, right? Sometimes we're often talking about, no, don't put me in a friend zone. But the reality is that that's just the soft letdown, if you will, for most people, to say, hey, you know what? You're pleasant. I don't find a reason to actually make you an enemy or kick you by your interest. But at the end of the day, I don't see you the way that you perhaps may see me. So congratulations. You're now in the friend zone. Whether or not you're coming out of a relationship really is second to the fact that, you're in a friend zone because it just can't happen, period. Now, the reason why, again, obviously, because we're optimistic, we may say, you know what? Well, they can't see me because they're in a relationship. Okay, so does that mean you sit around forever? Perhaps not. In most cases, I would say no. Don't sit around at all. I mean, if you are genuinely interested in that person and you want to get to know them and you think that you and that person can be friends, great. Obviously, if you have some interest in them beyond that and there's some time down the road, great. It depends again on what type time are you on? What's your schedule? What season are you in? Okay? The friend zone is real. And for many people, you got to wake up and understand that you can be in there a very long time. And so you should get comfortable with the idea that, friendship, by the way, is not a bad place to be. However, if your ultimate interest is in getting to that next level beyond, being platonic, well, you got to be honest with yourself about whether or not that's really an option for you. There are some people that are, in the friend zone and that's it. And there are others that are in the friend zone because, again, timing is real. There are people that may be ready to date versus others that are single but not ready to date versus someone that's ending a bad relationship or something to that effect. There are different stages again, and people are on different timing patterns or seasons, if you will. And so as a result of that, a lot of friend zoning actually takes place. But keep in mind that you got to be honest with yourself and also be clear about, what signs you're getting from that other person in terms of, the behavior to support the friend zone that you may be in or that you put someone in. All right. Melon Joy, what's going on? I see you. Elizabeth, what's going on? AKA Cheryl says, realistically, people don't meet people and think I want to be their friend. So creating a friendship for some is hard. I totally agree. But the reason why also, by the way, is that friendship is one of the, it gets a bad rap. It really does. However, friendship is the number one component that you really need going into a relationship. The number one reason why we don't communicate amongst one another in a way that's more transparent is because we're not friends. And typically the friend that is in your life, right, is the person that you tell all these things to, or that you may go ahead and talk about not just your championships, but your challenges, the trials and tribulations. That's your friend. But often when you meet someone and you have an interest in them, guess what happens? You see that person, you have an interest, and whether you pursue them or you entertain them as they're pursuing you, more than likely that representative is in front of everybody, right? Your representative is talking, and so you're not talking and interacting in ways that are as transparent. also what's taking place is a situation where more than likely you're not also having as much fun because you're not friends in that sense, right? So when you hear someone say, hey, you know what, you're my best friend and that's why I want to marry you, or you're my best friend and that's why I want to move forward with doing something more than this platonic thing we're doing. Well, that's because at the end of the day, they were able to actually see that person for who they really are and really build a relationship organically without the representatives present. However, when we think about friendship, it's just not fast enough. It's just not sexy enough. And so for many reasons, we think automatically it means rejection. It doesn't mean rejection. It does mean for some people, however, for the majority, it should really mean that, hey, you know what, let's get to know each other. Or perhaps we can build on our friendship, the things that we have in common for a certain period of time, and then maybe come back to this idea of a serious relationship or courting in some shape or form. All right. So, Daphne talking about, I like you, but anyway, Sandy and FU, what's going on? What's going on? I see y'all. All right. My babe Jay, what's going on? All right. Thank you, fam. Calm Before the Storm says, congratulations. You're in the friend zone. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that happens a lot. I found someone else. You're not the one. Let's be friends. No thanks. Different ways that you can say that, right? I am interested in a relationship, just not with you, right? But that, again, you got to make sure that you're being very tactful and be sensitive to the fact that someone is showing some interest in you. You saying no in any way, shape, or form, by the way, is a form of rejection. And so be careful how you reject someone. All right? Just think about that some more. All Things Tamara Dawn says, friends isn't always a death sentence to a relationship in the future. Absolutely. I totally agree. QDP Publishing, what's going on? Pumpkin from Pluto, what's going on? I see you. All right. So, again, it's not a death sentence. It's not the end of the world. All right. I can be friends with someone of the opposite sex. Easy is what Daphne says. Okay, that's what's up. Some of you don't feel the same way, right? Some of you are saying, you know what? If I have a friend of the opposite sex, I don't really see the reason why we're friends, why we need to be friends. I have enough friends, right? There are people that are of that belief. Okay. However, I would, again, just stress to you that even when you're in a dating stage, you need to think about how you can be friends, okay? How you can actually, communicate and interact with one another in a friendly space, because then and only then can you really be able to say, you know what? I can see someone a little bit more for who they actually are versus for who they're applying to be, right? So just think about that. Let that marinate a little bit. And, QDP says the same thing, right? You think friendship should be the basis of a romantic relationship. So I'm glad we're getting some consensus here. Ali says, let's start out as friends, and I prefer that. I just don't like the sour ending relationships that turn into friendships. Well, again, you had a relationship with someone, it didn't work out. There are different ways that people go, right? For me, I'd like to say, you know what, after a bad relationship, I'd like to, let us stay friends. However, if it doesn't work out that way, it doesn't work out that way. If that's not someone that you really communicated with, could get along with, then let them go. Don't necessarily, stay in that space and occupy space that's really not welcome. So it depends again on who you are and how you guys began. It's very hard to become friends if you started off just going straight for the relationship. Very hard to do that. However, it's very easy to go into a relationship if you started as friends. So I hope you guys are paying attention. All right. Daphne also says, the men I've come in contact with seem to have a difficult time being just friends. Well, at the end of the day, again, they don't have an interest. They want to be more than that. And they're already telling you what they want. And if you're not with it, let them go. Real talk. I wouldn't even waste your time. Only because at the end of the day, as you're interacting with them and you want to trust them, and you want to have certain conversations, they're thinking about something totally different. And so what they're going to share with you is all going to be so that they can put themselves in a certain kind of role or position where they can be considered for something that you already don't consider them for. So congratulations, you're going to waste your time. A man that is going to be in your life that doesn't understand that friendship is a basis for a relationship and not a life sentence or a death sentence. And if you're not giving them the vibe that your friend zone doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end zone, right? In terms of that's it for them, then, again, it may be a matter of how you're communicating it, or it may be a matter of just the fact that they're just not with it. And if you can say to someone, listen, you're going to be a friend. I need you to be a friend. I would like for you to be a friend. And this is the basis for how I start a relationship. That's different, right? So now that person has some hope. You're managing their expectations, which is very key. And also you're letting someone know really clearly what you want. Let's not leave it up to assumption, right? We do too much of that. Don't leave it up to assumption. Be very clear about what you want. And also define the friendship again. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. Define the friendship. Make sure at the end of the day that you're setting the boundaries, you're setting expectations based off of where your interest lies, so that at the end of the day, we're not doing a whole bunch of assuming, and you can see things for what they really are. AKA Sherry says, I agreed. Not sure why some people view it as being hard to be friends, but again, everyone has their own little, have their own background. There's a cultural context for friendship that really, it differentiates one particular perspective from another based off of how they were raised, where they're coming from, and all that good stuff. Daryl LaFerter, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Daphne says friendship should be first, period. That's what's going to last in a relationship. True. I mean, when you are friends, overall, you just have more fun. Overall, you communicate more. Overall, you're also able to weather the storm. So that's what friends do, right? Guest 716, what's going on? I see you. All right. SSG, what's going on? Calm Before the Storm says, guy shows tells you he likes you, but can't be with you because he's in a transition phase. Should you wait or keep it moving? If he's in a transition phase, have him define what that means. What does that actually mean? What does that transition phase mean? I mean, if he says that he likes you, right? And he's in the transition phase. Does that transition phase mean that he's out of the relationship and now he's just single but not available? And if that's the case, okay, so what does that look like for you? Are you okay with it? Are you okay with hanging out, no sex, right? I'm going to say that again, no sex, not being intimate, just getting to know one another. And that's, in that case, that's fine. Now, if he's still in a relationship, then at the end of the day, that's up to you whether or not you actually hang around. I would suggest that you hang around. I think at the end of the day, he just has a hook and he's looking to see if that you'll bite. But at the end of the day, ask what does that actually mean when you're in the transition phase. The transition phase is a legitimate phase, by the way, whether you're a man or a woman. If you're coming out of a relationship and you need some time and you meet somebody that you do like, I would say the same thing. Like, hey, can we hang out? Can we talk or whatever? But when you start talking about, being intimate with that person and all that other good stuff and not really actually being platonic, no, keep it moving. All right. I am Dr. Price says, what about friend zoning the family of an ex when it's a bad relationship? Friend zoning the family of an ex when it was a bad breakup. So in that case, again, if you don't want anything to deal with the family, or if still dealing with the family may make things a little complicated, absolutely. It's important to do that because sometimes your ex may find that as a way to stay connected or continue to be in your life in some way, shape, or form, or leverage the family members as a carrot, so to speak, to dangle in front of you. So if they see that, that you're still linked up with the family in a certain kind of way, they may, try to leverage that to stay in your life. And what you really need to do is go for a hard break initially, have some conversations with the family and let them know that, it was a bad breakup and that there's some, you're going to need some time. And that's very important because, as I mentioned before, in terms of setting boundaries, not just in your friendships, but also in your breakup. You got to break up, but you guys were together for a certain amount of time. The family members, they're like your family. And sometimes there's it's so commingled and overlapping, it gets very messy. For you, you should go ahead and have that conversation with the family members and let them know that, listen, you just need some time to breathe and to kind of process certain things and do your best, because ultimately you want to detangle the mess that that you're trying to get out of ultimately, right? All right, Benny, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining us. I see you have to go make some new girlfriends. Yeah, you got to make some new friends, man. But for the right reasons, I hope, okay? Because at the end of the day, if you're making new friends with the idea that, from that friendship can come a very positive, a very strong, a very healthy relationship, outstanding. I think that's a good way to go about it. Sandy says, I have a question. I've been dating a guy and I've been having difficulty with the desire to be low key, essentially meaning I'm a secret. So you've been dating a guy, all right, and you're having difficulty with his desire to be low key. I would let him go. Low key, he's basically creeping with you, and let it go. If you have been struggling with that, right, and at the end of the day, you're dating. So remember, if you're saying dating, let me go ahead and give you the definition again. Dating means that you're not in a committed relationship. You're dating someone. Okay, dating means that I date someone on Monday, I can date someone else on Tuesday. But if you're talking about courting, meaning that you're seeing this person you're getting to know for the sake of actually going into a permanent situation like marriage, right? That's a different situation. In that case, right, now you really have some serious problems. But if you can't even date me, right, and it has to be on the low, I'm sorry. You got to let that person go. Didn't mean to rhyme, but that's just the way it went down, okay? So if someone is dating you, but it has to be on the low, I'm not sure why. If this person is a superstar or something, and, you might end up in the tabloids, okay, maybe that. But other than that, no, let it go. That, there's no need to be a secret, especially during the dating phase, all right? Kara, thanks for joining us. Daphne, you say, so true, friend zones doesn't mean the end zone. Absolutely. Black Lily, what up? Beautiful, what's going on? I see you. Calm Before the Storm says he's got a lot going on out of a friendship and single. Yeah. Calm Before the Storm says, I see you clapping on that. Okay, cool. So Daphne says, yes, friends have good old fun together. That's how you can see if, both have something, deeper. I agree. Remember, when you're too busy courting or trying to get into, know someone for the express purposes of getting into a relationship, just sometimes, not say sometimes, I'm going to say most times you're going to present in a way that is, it's going to be more ideal. And in doing that, you may not show all the dents. You may not show the fears you have, the challenges, or, those types of things. You may not be as intimate or vulnerable because of that. And I think that's the wrong way to go. All right. Calm Before the Storm is just still trying to figure out just how low key, the boy is. Nah, it doesn't matter. Low key is low key. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're fighting the fact that you're basically a secret, let it go. All right. Butterflyness, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. So we're talking about the friend zone. They're talking about the friend zone. Any more questions? Any more comments? Any concerns regarding this thing called friend zone? Are you clear on this thing called friend zone? The Friend Zone 101 class is underway right now. All right, I'm Donovan Hitchmaster West. This is the Relationship Scripts. Wednesdays with Wes, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. We talk about all things relationships. And of course, as you already know, the topic tonight is the friend zone. You have any more questions? What's going on, It's the top of the year. Did you let go of that baggage, that dead weight from 2019? Or are some of you now still into the new year, right? The new decade, the new decade in the friend zone, trying to get out, or have somebody locked in a friend zone that's trying to get out. What's your situation? What's your question? What's your comment? What's your concern? What's your criticism of this whole situation? I'm all ears, okay? As you already know, I can go to my grab bag of questions and pull something out. if you guys don't have a question, but I'd like to hear from you guys first. So anything you got going on first, I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Now 4, now 3, 2. All right, so I'll go to the grab bag. Okay. Oh, Butterfly says, it's necessary to be friends before anything, but would you agree that the man leads the relationship? I'm old school and prefer to be pursued. But how is this, how in this day and age? Well, I think that there's some parts of what you share are true in a certain sense, meaning I do believe that in many instances a man can definitely assert himself in terms of showing you whether or not he's really serious about you. However, I do also believe women have the right to demonstrate whether or not they're interested in being more than friends as well, because, you know, to think someone can read your mind, right? That's a little bit presumptuous. You should really, you know, make sure that someone has the idea that they could be more than a friend in your life. And so you should be able to, you know, put that energy out there, if you will. Not necessarily make it, you know, not to create any big signs or anything, but I think you should be assertive in that sense. Now, in terms of the man, like, you know, leading the relationship, I think he can lead in a relationship. But again, it depends on who's there, right? It's up to you. If you're saying the only way that you're going to go, you know, down a certain path with this guy is if he approaches you, if he does X, Y, and Z, then obviously you're making sure that you're managing expectations and you're also letting someone know about how it needs to happen with you. However, it is 2020 and, you know, it's a different age. And so at the end of the day, if you're interested in someone, I think you should express that you have some interest. And do you have to go overboard? No. I think what that person does in terms of how they communicate, where the priorities are and all that good stuff, all those things you can find out during the friendship stage, during the time that you're just communicating with one another. And I think that will actually activate something in you in terms of whether or not you want to pursue something more with this individual and give them the freedom to know that there's more beyond this initial conversation as it relates to the future of your interaction. Nika, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. Daphne says, how should a woman show that they are interested without a man feeling like she's interested? Feeling like she's leading. I'm old school too. Okay. So Daphne, it's just about literally returning some of the energy, right? Whether you are, you know, initially in that space where you come into a networking event, a party, or whatever may be the situation. Give that person the sense that they do have a chance. Meaning our body language says so much. You know, body language accounts for 90% of communication, okay? What we say is just a small piece of the whole puzzle. But how you actually show in terms of how you look at a person, how you smile, whether or not your arms are crossed, whether you're facing that person or you're giving them your shoulder, how you may engage with them when you communicate. These are all great signs because ultimately, guess what? We're all animals first. We're the highest form, right? We're the highest on the ladder, but the reality is that we're animals first. So we're looking for all the signs of interest, so flirting, whether you want to call it, you know, just flirting 101, or if you want to just talk about literally giving someone the impression that you're open to an advance. That's one way that you can go about it. All right. Calm Before the Storm says, what if you work or what if you wink? I don't know. Clear that up, Calm Before the Storm. But energy, connection, letting someone know that you see them, that you are interested in them. You don't necessarily have to be leading in anything other than just returning certain energy. Remember that often in a situation where a guy is interested in approaching you, he's probably second guessing, triple guessing because of what energy you're giving off. And most times when a group of young ladies or women, period, doesn't matter the age, are together, it's very intimidating for a guy. And so what are you going to do differently? Or if you're there with your friend and your friend is of the opposite sex, you know, what do you do in that situation? So at some point you may have to step out of your comfort zone to let that person know that you have some interest. All right. So if you Calm Before the Storm says, what if you work with that person? Well, workplace romances are very, very tricky. And in most instances, I would avoid those workplace romances only because there's not a lot of conversation that usually takes place about what happens if this doesn't work. And so I think if you really feel like, there could be a real connection, you go ahead and have some conversation about that and talk about, what if this doesn't work? Get to know that person. Do they seem like the type that's going to blow up if it doesn't work out? Get a sense of their spirit, their energy, how they move, whether they have a sense of humor or they have a bad temper. These are some of the things you got to think about, because potentially you can lose more than them. You may lose your job. So be very careful about how you maneuver, how you navigate in that space. Okay. Beauty and the Peacock says common places that you may frequent along with a person of interest is always a good start. I totally agree. Again, just getting to know someone. What's the rush? Slow down. Get to know that person. Get to see a sense of experience something with that person together. It's always a great start in terms of building your friendship. Should you return the energy in the workplace, especially if he's one of your bosses? Absolutely not. The idea of you dating your boss is a bad move, a bad idea. I think at the end of the day, if you ever actually end up doing that, it would have to be after a very, I would have to say a long time, because the idea of doing that and it being successful is really the exception, nothing close to the rule. Okay. You have to have a special connection, get to know that person, and really, I really rule against it in 9 out of 10 instances. If you have a situation like that, you're talking about an exception. So, don't fall for it. Don't go for it. I think if anything, keep a nice friendly situation going, and that's it. Let that person get to know you and you get to know them, and leave it right there. All right. Work, networking events, church, etc. Exactly. Allie says innuendos, flirting, and body language are powerful aids. Absolutely. Calm Before the Storm says, I agree. It's very hard to navigate. Don't date the boss. Everyone is saying don't do it, right? So, yeah, I got 10 minutes left, and I want to hear from you guys before I go to my bag of random and anonymous questions. But, we don't even need to go to that bag if you have some more questions. It's just to make sure that we keep the conversation going and flowing. All right? So any more questions, any more thoughts, any feedback you have on this topic called the friend zone? I'm all ears. And, of course, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are, providing the kind of atmosphere, the kind of format where, we are giving you stuff that's reflective of your interest, and not necessarily just, talking to you, because who's interested in that, right? So Dr. Price says, can you share when you were friend zoned and didn't want to be? Yeah. I was friend zoned. I remember in my undergrad years, I was friend zoned. There was someone that I met, and I was just like, wow, like this person is absolutely beautiful. And I was like stuck. Like I was just there looking at her, just like, oh my, just stuck on stupid. And I remember her introducing me to her friends, and she was like, yeah, this is my friend Big Don. And I was just like, wow, that just happened, and I can still feel that. I still remember just being like, well, I thought we had a connection, but I was just Big Don. I was the big homie. I was like her big brother to her, is what she said as she was describing me. He always got my back, blah, blah, blah. And I was just sitting there like, oh, I missed the memo. So, that hurt. That hurt. I had to get over that. And eventually I did. But it was really kind of strange, because I was retracing the conversations, and that was one of my earlier experiences in terms of how we tend to process information to support what we believe and how we are overly optimistic, especially, instead of just accepting the idea that we're being rejected or that it's just not a fit overall. Okay. So, that definitely got me stuttering right now as I think about it. But, that's the reality, by the way. Just because you're interested in someone, doesn't mean that it's going to turn out to be what you want it to be or would like it to be. And by the way, there could also be mutual attraction, and it still can mean someone ends up in the friend zone, right? Because people have other relationships that they may already be in, and it just can't happen that way. So, this thing called life is very interesting. And if you're blessed to live long enough, you'll experience enough of these situations if you haven't already. Any other questions? Let me see. Change the subject. Checking to that cough. This is week number 2. Yeah, I hear you, Hafiz. I know. I got to do better. I got to do better in terms of nursing myself. I'm going to get better. Trust and believe. But isn't the beginning? You could graduate to the next level, right? Yes. When we're talking about friend zone, yes, you can. But you got to be very clear in terms of what kind of friend zone are you in. Some people are in friend zone with, they got a life sentence, and others, well, they have friend zone with the opportunity for parole, right? It takes a minute for, what does it say? It takes a minute for the tickle in the throat to love hot face. Anyway, you guys got jokes, okay? And that's when the Hitchmaster was born. Yeah, Ali, I was born back then when I got thrown into the friend zone. But no, the reality is that actually back in the day, I always was the guy that, my friends, would ask about, what's the best way to approach something or good ideas about something. And, I also had the nickname of the ultimate wingman, right? So before Hitch came out, I was the ultimate wingman because I would always find good ways to hook my friends up or to be that person that made the connection happen. So that's where Hitchmaster, was born, so to speak. Lydia says the cough has been around since October. At this point, you're talking trash. Lydia, you're fired. Get out of here. Beat it. Anyway, Levon, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. Where did you go, Levon? I mean, we were expecting you. You're the one that got this whole topic popping like it was last week. But anyway, thanks for joining us. Jermos, thanks for joining us. So anyway, we got just a couple minutes left. We have 5-6 minutes left. And we wanted to just, make sure that we were responsive and our conversation was reflective of where your interests were. So any more questions at all about this thing called the friend zone? Going once, going twice. Daphne says, no, I'm not joking. It does take a while for the tickle in the throat to go away and use someone to stop coughing when you've been sick. Yeah, I agree. Okay, stop talking about my cough, everybody, all right? Moving right along. Anyway, so anything else going on? Anything else going on? Talk to me. All things relationship. If you're done with this topic of the friend zone, what are some other topics you want to cover later this month or later this year? Feel free to just go ahead and hit us in the DM, or you can just go ahead and shoot us a suggestion in this thread, and we'll go ahead and make it part of the conversation later on down this season, of course, of Wednesdays with Wes. Where can women go to meet men? They can go places where men are. Next question. No, I'm just joking. So, where can women go to meet men? You have some organizations where, men may come together to do things like that are for good, such as 100 Black Men. It's a great organization where men come together to mentor. You got Big Brothers, Big Sisters events where the big brothers are helping out in terms of, again, mentoring. And so there are events where Big Brother, Big Sister, 100 Black Men, they throw these events. That's a good place to meet men. I know some would agree or disagree. Your church, group activities, fraternity activities. These are good places you can meet men. Libraries, bookstores. If those are areas of interest where you see a guy, learning, doing some self-starting, self-starter kind of attitude, someone who takes initiative to build up themselves, work on themselves. That's another great place that you can meet someone. But you really got to think about what are your areas of interest, right? If you love the gym, then maybe the gym is. And I know the gym is not the greatest for everyone, but I'm not talking about you see someone's, ooh, and then that's it. But maybe getting a sense of how that person, after a couple of times of seeing them and noticing that they're not the gym type, so to speak. So identify areas that you have a passion or that are part of your purpose, and see if there are men in that space that also may share some of those things in common. And that might be a great place to meet some men as well. Also, take a look at your own, how you're moving. Okay. Be very clear about that. If you're a person that's going to work, go home, go to work, go home, go to work, go home, then no, you're not going to meet anybody. Okay. You got to step outside your comfort zone and go to networking events, go to parties. Don't necessarily have to go to spaces that are all about your areas of interest either. Some of the best relationships are comprised of people that are yin and yang, people that have nothing in common really besides, just a mutual appreciation for one another. That can make life very colorful, very interesting. So, be willing to step outside the box. If you're trying things and these things aren't working, well, have the courage to look at your situation and say, you know what, this isn't working. Maybe there's something different that I can do. And it starts with taking inventory of yourself, some of your behavior, your body language, your circle. There's a number of different things that we can look at. And I hope that in 2020, we can talk a lot about these different topics and cover them in a way that you're going to come out on the top end of this conversation, being more aware of yourself as well as your surroundings, and hopefully you can get to where you want to be. Anyway, it's 9:58. I see some comments. Let me see if I can read a couple of them. Let's see what else. I see a bunch of comments. Sorry, man. Where can women meet men? Heard that. No POF. You need some Robitussin. Y'all go ahead and sit down. Go somewhere. My uncle said the same thing. Networking events. Yeah. You mentioned friend zone. What is a friend? What is a friend in 2020? I ask because people are so manipulative. A friend is somebody that understands who you are, where and can really try to understand, your heart, and not necessarily just get to the things that they have interest in, but identify things that you're interested in. And that's about it. We're down to less than a minute. So, I gotta go, you all, but please do me a favor. Share this with someone. All right. Hopefully, again, each of you could just share this with someone. That'll be great. I'd like to double, then triple, and then quadruple the amount of people that are watching every Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Please feel free to comment, send something in the DM. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you appreciate, what you don't appreciate. Feedback is definitely something that I would love to hear from you all. And at the end of the day, this is just the beginning of 2020, the year of clarity. I look forward to being one of those perspectives to help you get you from where you are to where you need to be. This is Donovan Hitchmaster West, and it's been a pleasure serving you. Until next week, peace.